Everyone would please rise for the pledge and remain standing for the prayer. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. We just thank you for each and every individual here, for every soul that calls this community home, and for everybody that passes through. Just pray for your hedge of protection upon this community, and pray for your guidance and for your wisdom. And unfortunately, we come to you in tragedy again. We all too often, it seems like small towns, and we're really everywhere, suffer with hurt and loss. And we pray for your strength and your comfort upon the loved ones of a recently passed citizen. And we pray for definitely a peace that surpasses all understanding when it's so hard to understand why. And we just pray for your blanket upon this community. And we thank you for all that you bless us with. And we thank you again for this meeting this evening to help us make decisions that will truly reflect your heart and what's good for this community as a whole, and not just an individual. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. Amen. Cindy, if you would, roll call.
Brandon Elmore?
He's not here. You're going to be calling for a while. Here.
Jason Brewer?
Here.
Tim Heiss?
Here.
Tito Farias?
Here.
All right. I trust you've had an opportunity to review the consent agenda. And, if there are no questions or comments, I would entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
That was Jason with the first. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That was Tim with the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Consent agenda approved as presented. We do have a special presenters tonight. And I know filling in for Doug, gentlemen, from Baker Tilly, if you don't mind, I will turn the floor over to you. So if you'd like to.
Joey, pass out some copies of water and sewer reports here.
Super.
So yes, filling in for Doug, my name is Mitchell Eschweiler, Senior Manager with Baker Tilly, and Joey Mazie as well is here with me. I'm going to go through the sewer report first, and I'll wait till Joey passes it out, and then I'll hand it off to Joey to go through the water.
Thank you, sir.
Just really brief summary here. We're just going to kind of talk about the current financial health of both the water and sewer utility.
Thank you.
Fortunately for both utilities, as we went through and looked at the historical information, both utilities do appear to be in a good position. So it's always good when I can come before councils and not have to give the bad news. So I appreciate that.
So do we.
Thank you.
So I'll briefly go through.
Oh, you're right.
Was a good copy what I left.
Icebreaker.
Yeah.
See an icebreaker right there?
I'll start with the sewage works. As I go through the presentation, if anyone has questions, feel free to stop me. I might turn it over to Joey. Joey worked on these reports with Doug. I don't have as much intimate knowledge, but I can answer some of the questions you may have. So feel free to shoot those my way. I'm going to start on page 2. Page 2 there, table 1, you can see the fund balance history of the sewage works. This is just looking at the total cash that the sewage works has through each of its various funds. You can see there, starting in 2020, you ended with cash of just under $1.9 million. Through 21 to 22, that position has continued to rise. The cash position as of 2022 was a little over $2,162,000. Turning to page 3. Page 3, table 2 is going to break down your historical receipts and disbursements. So those transactions where you bring cash in and cash out. You can see there in 2020 and 2021, we saw a lot of receipts, the dark green there, and that's related to the bonds that were done in those years. And then the larger disbursements in those years were also related to spending down those bond proceeds. When looking at this graph, one of the things I like to focus on and have people focus on is your operating receipts and operating disbursements. In the receipts category, that's going to be the more lighter pink, almost white graph there. You can see there in 2020, your operating receipts were about $1.24 million, and that's risen in 2021 and held constant in 22 to about $1.3 million. And then the other bar that I will focus on there is the turquoise under disbursements. That's your operation and maintenance disbursements. That's really your day-to-day expenditures, salaries, wages, those sort of things. And you can see there each year that's slowly risen, about $578,000 in 2020, and that's gone up to $655,000 at the end of 22. And that's pretty normal when we're looking across utilities. We're always going to see those costs rise. Turning to page 4. Page 4 then is looking at your cash position for the sewage works, broken down by the various funds that you're required to keep. You can see there you have your construction fund, your depreciation improvement for some of those larger capital needs, your debt service reserve, which is the requirement for your outstanding bonds. You set that aside in that account. And if for any reason you were to miss a payment, you already have the money set aside. You have your bond and interest money used to make the payments on the bonds. And then you have your operation and maintenance. When looking at this, you can see the gray line going through the graph there. That's your minimum balances required per your bond ordinance. So minimum balance in 22 was about $450,000. So you can see there you had quite a bit above that minimum balance, which is good for the sewage works. If you do have any capital needs that would arise, you have money set aside to handle that without having to have an emergency for the sewage works. Looking at page 5, this is going to start to compare your receipts and disbursement to the budget for 2022. Table 5 is looking at the receipts. You can see there total receipts budgeted for 2022 were $1,334,000. Actual 22 receipts were above that amount, $1,424,000, or an increase of about $90,000 there for your receipts. Table 6 then looks at your operating disbursements. The total budget for 2022 was $713,000. Actual receipts came in below budget at about $655,000. Page 6 then, table 7 is showing the payments on your outstanding 2021 bonds. You can see there the budget was $297,000 and the payments were spot on with the 2022 budget. For table 8, looking at capital expenditures, the budget was $155,000. Actual capital expenditures, including the RD project, were $216,000. So a little over budget there on capital expenditures. And that's really nothing to be concerned about. Normally, you won't always spend exactly on your capital budget. That's going to fluctuate year to year. That's one of the reasons you have some of those reserves set aside for things like that. Page 7 then, this really looks at in total for the 22 budget, we anticipated your increase in cash to be $29,400. Due to better than expected receipts, lower operation and maintenance disbursements, we saw a change in cash of $114,000, or an increase above the budget of about $85,000 for your cash. The next section of the report, we're looking at forecasting out to 2027, and you can see there table 9 is your estimated receipts. At this time, we're assuming no rate adjustments for the sewage works, so we've held your collection and treatment services constant through 27. In total, we're anticipating you'd have receipts of approximately $1.3 million each year. Turning then to table 10 on page 8 is your estimated operating disbursements. You can see here each year we're assuming an inflationary factor of approximately 3%, increasing each year. In 2027, we'd anticipate your operation maintenance to be around $823,000. So you can see each year that's slowly growing. Table 11, looking at your estimated debt service. This is based on your amortization table for your bonds, and that's about $267,000 each year in annual payments. And for estimated capital, table 12, annually we're budgeting $161,000, and the breakdown of that, if you're interested in that, is on page 13, showing the items that are budgeted each year through 2027. And that includes $100,000 for just any allowance for unforeseen events that may occur. We also have lateral replacements, $50,000 each year, $6,000 a year for vehicles, and then another $5,000 for unforeseen items. Going back to page 9 then, you can see the anticipated effect on your cash position each year. You can see starting in 24, we do show a draw down of cash. Again, this is assuming you're spending to your budgeted level each year. If you don't spend that budget, you may see lower draw on your cash position than what we're showing here. And another thing, and why we haven't shown any sort of rate adjustment here, is you do have a good, strong cash position where you can handle some of these decreases in cash if you need to. You're not in any dire situation where you'd have to go out and do rates. But it's one thing you might just want to monitor over the next several years, just making sure this is kind of status quo and that you wouldn't have to have your rates be affected. Page 10, table 13 is just graphically showing that. You can see your cash positions coming down each year, but you're still quite above your minimum balance required for your bond ordinance. So that's where I'm saying we don't anticipate you need to adjust rates unless some large unforeseen project were to occur. Table 14, just comparing your current rates to the state averages. So for sewer, average bill is $69.15, and then for water, it's $24.15. State average for sewer is $44.36, and state average for water is $31.95. I will say when looking at the state average, I was a little surprised that the sewer's not higher, and I think when we go do our next study across the state, we're going to see the sewer rate jump up quite a bit. We're working with a lot of communities throughout the state that are having to do pretty significant increases on their sewer rates. So I anticipate that's probably going to be somewhere in the mid-50s next time we do this. And then the last page I'll just focus on here is your page 11 and 12, just showing your outstanding amortization schedule for the 2021 bonds. You can see that's level through 2061 at about $267,000 each year. Any questions on the sewer report? Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, you just said in referring to table 14 that that you think, or I mean, on what basis you think that our sewer rates would go up?
Not your sewer rates, state average.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was going to say, because we have a brand new one.
No.
We're paying already.
Nope, no, it's sewer across the state. I work with a lot of communities that I'm seeing their sewer rates north of $60 now. So it's, and I guess just a little background information, like with the state revolving fund, the SRF program. 2 years ago, if you were to go through their funding program, they were looking to try to give subsidy or grant money to utilities above $65. Now they bumped that up to $85. So you can just kind of see the rates that a lot of the different communities they're getting up there now. So now really 85 is kind of their threshold for unaffordable.
So we're doing good, y'all.
Joey, do you want to go through?
Yeah.
So, like Mitchell said, my name is Joey Mazie. I'm a consultant at Baker Tilly, and I'm sure I introduce you guys quite well by me dropping all this stuff. So, appreciate you laughing along with me. So, kind of just going to follow the same kind of format that Mitchell just went through. So, we'll just go ahead and start on page 2 of the report. Table 1 just again shows the history of the cash balances of the water utility over the past 3 years, and they've shown steady increases, which is obviously nice to see. In 2020, it was around $645,000, and by 2022, that's increased almost $140,000 up to $785,000. And obviously, that's because receipts have outpaced disbursements in each of those past couple of years. Moving along to table 2 on page 3, like Metro, I'm going to focus on the operating receipts and operating disbursements. So the pink bars on the left just show the operating receipts. In 2020, those were at $778,000 approximately, and by 2022, those have risen up to $864,000. Excuse me, and that's primarily to the rate increases that have occurred over the past couple of years for the water utility, and it's in line with kind of what we were showing in our rate study. And the turquoise bars on the right are the operating disbursements for the water utility, and 2020 those were approximately $494,000, and by 2022 those have gone up to $515,000, which is pretty characteristic to see given kind of the economic environment we're in and kind of stuff that we've seen across the state over the last couple of years. Table 3 just kind of shows a breakdown of operating disbursements. The breakdown stayed pretty consistent over the last couple of years with personnel, and the turquoise is purchase power. Moving on to page 4, just kind of shows a breakdown of the different funds of the water utility. And the gray line going across, like Mitchell had mentioned, is the required reserves that are required per the bond ordinance. And you guys are hovering around between $50,000 and $100,000 above what you're required to have on hand, which is nice to see. You have the water tower fund, which is reserved for, obviously the water tower for painting and maintenance for that. You have your depreciation fund, which is on-hand capital improvements that you would want to make. You have your customer deposit fund in the blue. Your bond interest fund, which, like Mitchell mentioned, is for your debt payments. Debt service reserve has stayed relatively consistent over the last couple of years. And operation maintenance has gone up pretty healthily over the last couple of years, again, kind of due to the economic environment, but again, not uncharacteristic with what we have seen across the state. Moving on to page 5. So we had your financials had shown that your total receipts were $868,283 for the water utility, and you were budgeted only $839,000, so that's a positive variance of $28,983, and that's primarily due to the rate increases that the water utility has gone through over the last couple of years. Interest income was relatively flat, and customer deposits you're assumed to kind of get what you give, so those are always assumed to be at zero, so that's always nice to see that there's a net inflow of those. Operating disbursements, so your total operation maintenance disbursements for 2022 were $515,334. You guys were budgeted to spend $577,900, so again, kind of what Mitchell mentioned, under budget, and that drives the positive increase in cash over the past few years like we've seen. Moving on to page 6, debt service, right on target with what you guys are expected to pay every year. That's always nice to see. And then capital, kind of like what Mitchell mentioned, it can fluctuate from year to year. And if you go down to page 12? Yes, page 12 shows the capital improvement plan that we have put together based on input from the utility. And you've got $75,000 in 2024 for the water main replacement on Glee Drive. You have $252,500 for water main improvements for the south water main. The south plan improvements of $834,000 approximately in the last 3 years of the improvement plan. Water valve replacements each year of about $37,000. Truck replacement is supposed to occur this year for $5,000, and just kind of a contingency for unforeseen events of $37,500. And that, I guess I'll go over this later, but the amounts deferred are kind of projects that we can anticipate to be bond funded should you guys issue new debt over the next couple of years. And the rate structure that you guys have passed recently kind of allows for those bonds to be issued and not have to increase the cash significantly, or impact the cash significantly, sorry. So we're moving on to page 7. Just shows a breakdown of receipts and disbursements and how that compared to the budget. So the actual change in cash for the year was $27,261, and you guys were expected to lose $5,878,000. So more than exceeding what you guys were budgeted to do. So table 9, like Mitchell mentioned, kind of just shows what we're estimating to see over the next couple of years for receipts and disbursements. So starting with the receipts, the metered sales, net of sales tax, and the ethanol plant receipts are in line with the 10% and 15% increases that are in line for the next couple of years for the water utility, and that's after adjusting out the utility receipts tax elimination that occurred this past year. Everything else is expected to stay about the same. That's what we're estimating, and we're expecting to see about $1.171 million of receipts over the next 5 years. Table 10 shows estimated operating disbursements, and again, similar to sewer, we're showing a 3% inflationary factor for each year. And since you guys no longer have to pay the utility receipts tax every year, that's been adjusted out for the future years. Debt service is based on the amortization schedule. That is on page 11. Page 11. It's expected to be about $19,900 through 2029, which is when the bonds will mature. Page 9, table 12, shows estimated capital improvements over the next couple of years, and again, it's in line with what was on the capital improvement plan on page 12. And a little table below just kind of breaks everything down in a more tabular format, shows it all in one place. And in 2023, we're expecting a draw on cash, but since the rates are going to increase over the next couple of years, the cash is going to grow pretty healthily over the next 5 years, which is obviously good to see. And I guess the 2023, the effective rates are only going to be in effect for 7 months, which is primarily the reason why there's going to be a draw on cash over the next year. Table 13 just summarizes it. The cash balances are going to continue to grow year over year, with the exception of 2023, and the recommended reserves are going to continue to grow. The required reserves in the green are expected to continue to go up, due to the inflationary factors that we have with the operation and maintenance fund and the depreciation fund. Table 14 just goes over the state average rates versus what you guys are currently charging. So by the end of phase 3, which is expected to happen in 2025 for the water rates, those are expected to be about $30. So I guess in a couple of years they'll be about $99 a month for both water and sewer. But for just water, it's about $30, which is in line with what the state average is. But like Mitchell said, I've been seeing a lot of utilities that the rates have gone up quite significantly, not to the effect of sewer, but they have gone up probably to about the $40 range. And like Mitchell had mentioned, with the subsidization that SRF provides, normally I think for water it's about, Mitchell, what's 55? 55 for water, which is expected to go up to 65, right? Or is
It's 55 now.
55 now? Okay.
State average on that?
Yeah, state average. Yeah. So moving on, page 11 is just the amortization schedule for the outstanding waterworks bonds. And again, like I mentioned earlier, the average debt payment every year is about $19,900, and those bonds are expected to mature in 2029, so in only about 6 years from now, which at that time, all those funds that you've accumulated for bond and interest debt service reserve, you can transfer to another fund and use them however you like. Moving on to page 12, we have the capital improvement plan, which kind of went over already. Just kind of outlines, we have cash funding capital improvements every year, about $191,000, which obviously can fluctuate from year to year. You may not spend that, you might exceed that, but that's a pretty healthy amount every year. That's in line with what you guys on average spend in a given year. And then page 13 kind of shows the schedule of rates and charges for the next couple of years for the water utility. Phase 1, the first 333 cubic feet, you're charging $5.39. 667 cubic feet, $3.10. Next 1,000 cubic foot, $1.72, and anything above 2,000 cubic feet's $1.22. And by 2025, that's going to go up to $6.82, $3.92, $2.17, and $1.54 respectively. And page 14 kind of shows where you guys stand with similar sized communities across the state. And as you can see, they're pretty standard in the middle of what you would see typically, which again is always nice to see. So you're doing all right. And that's my spiel. Any other question? Any questions? Yeah.
I did. You were talking about the financial management report on page 9,
Mm-hmm.
table 12,
Yep.
and the table there at the bottom. Tell me again why that's negative 2023. What does that mean, please?
So the rate increase that you guys just had for the elimination of the utility receipts tax went into effect in April, and because that rate increase was in fact for only 7 months of the year, you're not capturing the additional 5 months of added receipts that you would get in a given calendar year. So you're missing out on 5 months, but that's effect that bumps into 2024, which is why it's, it goes from negative $30,000 to $59,000, $80,000 swing.
Oh, I see. So this is showing expected levels of income, or what is it showing? Or is it
It's
ratio?
so the receipts, you have your metered receipts, which is what you get from using the water every month.
Mhm.
So that also takes into effect reconnect fees, interest income. If you go to page 7, the fire protection fees that are charged every 6 months, the receipts that you guys get from Union City, Ohio, as well as other miscellaneous receipts. And that kind of comprises the makeup of the receipts. And then the disbursements, you have personnel, purchase power, outside services, things like that. And the 59,400 is receipts minus all the disbursements.
Okay, so we had more disbursements.
You're going to have more budgeted to have more disbursements in 2023. But in 2024 through 2027, you're
We straighten it out.
yes.
We had the increase in capital in 2022 partly based on the fact that we ran under budget
Yes.
in a couple of areas. So
Uh-huh.
so that's possible that or it's likely that if we operate similar to what we did last year, that 33,900 would be less
Yes.
of a negative than
Correct. Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
If we don't.
Yeah.
I'll say that very
Uh-huh.
quietly.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Nice job. All right, gentlemen, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Moving along, we could go ahead and you guys are welcome to stay. Welcome to go to our travel. Can you get me presentation for that? Slide for me. There you go. Last council meeting, I mentioned that, I gave you guys handouts to kind of, to look over and kind of analyze and digest and kind of marinate in for a while. And then tonight, what I would like to show is everybody what is in discussion and give you something more to think about. No formal ask tonight because Brandon's not here. I want to have full council in a situation of this magnitude. But I'd like for you guys to imagine small town in Iowa. It's about 5,000 people. And like any small town in the United States, I mean, they motor along the best they can. I mean, it's a small town, so they make do the best they try to protect their businesses. They try to draw in factories the best they can. They try to keep homes, and it's tough. A lot going on, and they try to man a police department, a fire department, and all that. But somebody comes along and says, you know what I think we should do? I think we should put a line down through the middle of town. You know, it could be 50% or maybe 60-40, maybe even 70-30, but I think we should put a line through the town, and I think we should split everything. I think we should make another fire department. I think we should make another police department. I think we should make this, I should make that. I think we should make 2 of everything. Except the post office. We'll have 1 post office. But we'll make 2 of everything else. How bad do you think that person would be laughed out of the city? How ridiculed would they be? I can only imagine the expression your guys' faces if I said, we're going to split this side of town again, and I want to duplicate everything we already have, which means paying more. But is that not essentially what we do and have done for 150 years? So one of the worst things we can fall into as the human race is thinking, it's always been that way, so that must be the way it's supposed to be, or it must be the best way. And if we'd always thought that, we wouldn't even have a wheel, let alone the telephones on the side of our hips that can pull down movies. So the challenge of a small community, certainly as I iterated earlier, are many. We've got aging populations. We've got young adults that, I'm sure you heard it, maybe from your kids. Maybe even you said it. I can't wait to get out of here. As soon as I graduate, I am out of here. I'm never coming back. Declining birth rates. We've got age and limiting aging folks, and we've got limited housing stock. We've got aging housing stock, I should say. We've got limited rental housing that's in adequate condition. We've got declining downtowns across this country in small towns. We've got incompatible development in historic areas, threatening a loss of the character. That means you put in something brand new next to the historic district, and it's like, okay, that doesn't look right. And we've got aging infrastructures, pipes underground. We've got lack of transportation options. We've got limited resources. On and on and on and on. And then if we want to look at even a little deeper, some of the challenges facing our respective departments. Our fire and police, folks, it's tough. The age of our average firefighter is increasing. That's great if you're a pilot from having experience, if you got to land a plane on the water, but that's tough when you're going into a burning building. You've got to pull someone out. So that's a concern. Is this, as a retiring fireman, is this not accurate in terms of the average age going up even for our fire department?
100%.
Okay. Further analysis shows that the number of firefighters in the U.S. overall is decreasing. That's a problem. So it's harder to get folks to get into firefighting and keep them. So that's another problem that we're fighting. And then an additional challenge from the police side. The number 1 challenge for police officers in 2022 was recruitment and retention. That was 52% of all responses from police officers themselves. Lower pay and fewer benefits than larger nearby markets. We could write a book on that.
Is this Union City data or is it?
No, this is national.
Okay.
Sorry, great question. Great question. Limited resources compared to larger markets. That's not rocket science. But another thing to note: grants are not a cure-all. A single grant allocation can take as many as 4. And you're already shaking your head, so you've been down that road. Can take as many as 4 hours, 40 hours to complete a single grant application. That can be absolutely, positively overwhelming for a small department when you're just trying to fill shifts and you're dealing with complaints. And you've got to be at one end of town for this complaint. You've got to be at another end of town for somebody who's having a heart attack. You've got to be at the other end. It never stops. And it's getting harder. So, what to do? Holy smokes. The easy thing to do would be just like do this, rip your hat, and just want to set the guy's cars on fire on the desk and leave. That's not an option. So, what do we know? Well, we do know research has demonstrated successful communities, 1, have a vision for the future. Got a plan. So it'll be shocking. They inventory their assets. They build plans on the enhancement of existing assets. In other words, make better good. That's a horrible phrase. With what you have. Do better with what you have. There you go. They also use education and incentives. Great communities cooperate with neighbors for mutual benefit. And they pay attention to community aesthetics. So if we know what the dire shape everything is in, we know how things have been forever, we know how things are headed, what's something we could do to capitalize on some of these things here, these traits you see in successful communities? Because that's what we ultimately want to be, right? We want to be a successful community. Okay, so certainly there's strength in unity. Collaboration is becoming a measuring stick for numerous grant initiatives in the region. If you guys want to know why Vision Corner is ranked number 1 out of 142 projects for the Ready Round 1 and why it's already been pushed to the front for Ready Round 2 so we can get that completely over the hump, is because of collaboration. When you throw Ivy Tech in, you throw Ball State in, you throw Randolph County United in, you throw Reed Hospital in, you throw the school in, and then you've already got the city in, that's collaboration at its finest. And that is what's garnering the most attention when we do grant applications nowadays. It's like, okay, are you trying to go alone, or are you pulling in other parties and working together? In other words, they're trying to emphasize there's benefit in that. Because there's the old adage, there's power in numbers. Well, there's also efficiencies to be gained. And we've stopped duplicating processes. So collaboration has also become obviously a narrative for just thinking differently altogether and operating more efficiently in today's marketplace. So, what do we have an opportunity to do? By coming together, and when I say coming together, I mean collaborating. I don't mean moving the state line. That's not going to happen, and I can't stress that enough. That's not going to happen, and we don't want that to happen, believe it or not, because we want to treat it as a branding tool. We have 2 great states that get to share one city. It's not one city split by 2 states. We have one city that 2 great states get to lay claim to. That's going to be our mindset. So, by coming together, though, we can optimize our staff, we can optimize our space, we can gain tremendous cost efficiencies, as you'll see, get a glimpse in here soon. We can gain energy and resource efficiencies. We can also increase or lessen the burden of our maintenance, and just flat out enhance collaboration with what we're already doing, but by bringing it under one roof. Okay, go ahead. So, when we break down the numbers, and then we have skinned this cat so many ways because we've looked at this for a long time now. This is not something we just woke up one morning last month and said, hey, what if we try this? We've been actually working on this for over a year now. I asked the departments to go through, starting with fire and police, because we want to start where guys were already starting to collaborate and try to work together. They did their budgets. Go ahead and go to the next one. What they did is where they're at currently, and then what they would estimate savings by having a joined department, a collaborative department under one roof. $53,000 in fire department savings in 1 year. That's in 1 year. Go to the next one. If we look at police, you see, this is right out of the line item budget. We're not making this up. These are our line item budgets that are available for perusal by anybody. Go to the next one. $44,850. So we're saving nearly $100,000 a year on our side alone if we can find a way to work smarter. And that's by working together. On the Ohio side, they showed combined, you're seeing fire and police, and also municipal and village there. So we haven't even dug into the municipal and the village end on our end yet. They're already saving over $66,000 on the Ohio side alone. So folks, when you boil it down, we'd be saving nearly $200,000 a year by working together. $200,000 a year. That means if one term and one more year, the rest of this year and another term for us, that's $1 million. People want to talk about, oh, I want playground equipment. Oh, I want my sidewalks. I want that. I want. We've never really changed it since we were 3. I want this. I want that. I want that. I know, because I'm the same way. We want what we want. Our wanters are in full bore. However, it's got to be paid for. And imagine what $1 million extra in the coffers could do for the community over the course of a year. So, how do we get there? Well, here's what we've done so far. And I want to stress this so strongly. The steps we've taken so far are not they're not speaking of those cost savings you just saw. This is just deciding to work together in a collaborative sense on calls and so forth, and creating the framework, if you will, of what it could be having under one roof. We've developed a common set of policy and procedures, operational guidelines, medical direction protocols. They've been established. We've identified a path forward for all credentials, so our fire, our EMS, our law enforcement. So that way we can hire personnel on both sides of town. So if you go to work on the Union City, Ohio side, you'll still be employed by the state of Ohio, or on the Ohio side, but you'll have all the same procedures on the Indiana side. You'll be familiar with everything already because they're uniform. We'll utilize one detective for all investigations. We have a common command system that's been adopted for all emergency services. And really, I'm not doing this whole process justice because this gentleman could speak to all of this much better than I could. But what we're doing is we're absolutely positively simplifying things because we're trying, number one, even if logic doesn't prevail, and they say, no, I would rather we keep doing the things we're doing the way we've been doing and keep everything separate because I like spending more money and not getting as much in return. If that's logic we want to continue to employ, then that's what we'll do. But we, at bare minimum, at least want to work together better so that when somebody's in need at their house and somebody needs to come over from another department, the procedures, they're familiar. It's all standard. There's no two separate states. Oh, you do things this way. I don't know none of that. That's crazy. We've also, as you see there, common scheduling system, a pursuit of common reporting software for all emergency incidents and billing practices, and moving all local communications to a single dispatching platform. So is there anything you want to add in any of these things that you've either observed or any thoughts? I won't put you on the spot, but...
This thing's moving forward. It's becoming a living, breathing animal. We just ordered all matching uniforms last week. So we're already set on a path to where we're working together side by side. We are going to be looking the same. We're going to be operating the same. We're going to be using the same medical direction. The equipment is stored in the same location, same methods on every truck. The EMS bags, all the medications, all the trauma gear, everything is stored in exactly the same way on every truck in this community. The 25 years, 26 years, I've been a professional firefighter, paramedic here. The 30 plus years I've been in emergency services in this community, because I started over there, that's the first time in history. And excuse my French, but it's about damn time.
Well, on that note, if you could, to give some people an illustration, because some folks who might be watching right now and say, wait a second, you're all doing this together, how are you not already saving money? Well, like give air packs, for example. Give the air pack example.
So NFPA is the alphabet agency within the federal government that would hang us if there was a catastrophic occurrence, i.e. firefighter fatality or something like that. That standard requires a fire department to replace their PPE component, which is our helmets, boots, gloves, hoods, coats, pants, SCBAs, breathing apparatus, everything every 10 years. It doesn't matter what your budget is. It doesn't matter how much community support you have. That's the requirement. Do we have to? No. But if we don't, if we have an incident, if we have something bad happen, we will be hung out to dry because we're not in compliance with the NFPA standard. So that process alone, our SCBAs, our breathing apparatus, are up for replacement. We purchased them after I was appointed fire chief. I've been there 10, 11, on my way out. It's time to replace them. We theoretically are not going to have to replace them because 3 or 4 years ago, the high side replaced theirs. So theirs are new. So when we start legitimately merging this operation together collaboratively, that's literally $170,000 to $180,000 that this community as a whole is not going to have to invest. Now, we will at some point down the road, but we're only going to have to do it once. We're not going to be doing it twice. Because right now, we've, as a community, 5,500 people Indiana and Ohio, we have double of everything.
And that includes fire trucks. And those are not cheap. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, what else have we done? Well, on Tuesday, October 4th, 2022, this is historic. That's the reason why it's written out like this, because it was the first ever joint operational command staff meeting for Union City Emergency Services. That was absolutely a historic event for the community, because the folks in this community, my hat's off. And by the way, I've been totally sidebar this whole conversation for a second. I want to give a public hats off to Rob Myers and Brad Meek for the guys that run the. That's how my brain works. I'm sorry for the presentation you saw with the water and wastewater. Those guys are phenomenal, and a big hats off to them, because that's why we have outstanding wastewater and water systems like we do, because of those gentlemen. And my apologies, I forgot to recognize them earlier. But hats off also to the folks on both sides of the line that decided, you know what, we can do this better, and we can do it together. And it's not about ego. It's not about who gets the credit. It's not about who does what and who, has the bright new shiny toy. It's about just trying to take care of this community the best we can. That's all it is. And the folks on both sides of the line have been just phenomenal in this regard. I can't give props enough to the Mark Aders and the Tim Crawfords and the Eric, all those guys have been phenomenal. They really have. And so that's what's helped make this possible. Now, we also had a joint meeting in Indiana, Ohio Rural Development. So this is also another thing that's unique. The state agencies are coming together. There's conversations being had weekly about Union City between the state governments, which is awesome, because they see the value in this. So not only the rural developments, but we have Okra on our side, and then Okra doesn't exist in Ohio. They don't have an Okra Office of Community Rural Affairs, but they have reached out to what would be their counterparts, the way they're structured on the I side. Because funding, obviously, as you can imagine, is a big thing in this. It's a big, big thing. Because we can't do this on our own dime. This has to be a total collaborative project on both sides of the line, with everybody shouldering the burden. But the beauty of this is, instead of us trying to shoulder the burden someday of a new fire department or it's one. We've cut our costs, we've cut our headaches in half. So if you would, go ahead and go to the next screen. Now, what you see here is a rendering. I can't stress enough, that's just a rendering. That is actually what many folks in this town for years knew as the former State Bank building. Word got out that they're going to close state line. Well, that was proposed. I'm going to make this abundantly clear. That was proposed by the head of rural development for the state of Indiana, which is a presidential appointed position. But we've had subsequent meetings since then, and several pairings of the initial drawings and costs and everything. So, state line is not going to be closed. It's not feasible from a cost perspective. Now, I would love to have something, I still want something over state line, because that was my original concept, was to build over state line and have a tunnel. So you could drive through, people wouldn't have to close state line, but you'd actually have two offices sitting above state line. And that would be the shared state. But that's still a concept that's in motion. But this right here is what's sitting before us, if you will. And I have worked diligently to get down to where it is. I still would love to get down further, but we're kind of seem to be at a stopping point with the company that owns this building. The company's based out of New Jersey. But that's where we're at. And so, again, I'm not making any pitch today for any decisions. None at all. But I want you guys to be thinking about this. Because of the Ohio side, I've been working and talking a lot with Dwayne, Mayor Pooter on the Ohio side, and they see value in the collaboration as well. And it's just a matter of how we make everything fit, how we make everything fit financially to make it happen. But we know it's one of those situations we've got to try everything we can to make it happen. So if you look at the next slide, this is all my ask is. Because folks, I'm telling you right now, if you see a shred of value in this proposition at all, even the slightest shred, the onus is on you too to help us tell this story. The onus is on all of us, every one of us. I don't want this to be a government thing. This needs to be a community thing that we're going to put ourselves in a better position so the generations after us say, oh my gosh, man, they finally woke up. Wasn't that a cool thing they did when they decided to quit spending so much money on duplication of everything and they decided to come together and they realized it could be done. And so, and I'm telling you right now, I've thought about this and I've prayed about this for months now. And the best I can equate it, not to dumb it down too much, but I can imagine Gina and I to be like, okay, Gina, I want you to get another house and go live somewhere, and we're going to share the cost of the 2 homes and live separately. I can't wrap my head around that. I can't wrap my head around that. And so, again, we've got the ability to make this happen and to be a truly effective, efficient government, which we all deserve. So, again, this is what Harry Truman said, and I think we should live by it. It's not a matter of who's getting the credit. It's just a matter of when we hang our hats up at night, 4 years from now, when we're out of here, or whatever, whoever, whenever our term's in, that we set ourselves up better when we walk out than what it was when we came in. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, department reports. Steve, do you have that walkthrough? There was something, the only thing I wanted to show, that's, Lord knows I've taken enough time, the rendering, the visual rendering of the Hub City building.
I do.
If you want to go ahead and play that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So what you're going to see here is just a quick minute walkthrough of the rendering for the Hub City building, and should I go ahead and have the council members start going? Do we have this queued up, or do you think it's going to queue up now?
Well, it should come right up.
Okay, until that goes up.
Go off to something else. I'll just bring it up in
that'll
an
work.
email.
Tito, do you have?
I don't, but there were a couple of things that I wanted to mention. Last time I was just taking too long, so I didn't. And there are things that that I brought up in the past, and I think they were valuable, and I'd like to bring them up again. One is that if it's still pertinent, the workforce had wanted to have some horses as a marketing initiative in town at their place over here. And from my reading, that would require an amendment to our ordinance on having livestock in town. Should be a simple no-brainer, like a couple words or maybe a sentence or something. I mean, it should. It just was never happened.
I'll give it a Ryan.
The other one was that I had spent quite a bit of time actually with some other people reviewing the rental inspection ordinance. And there were a couple weaknesses that they thought, might be worth considering. But there were also changes in state law regarding how we manage that kind of thing. And so I had left all of that and passed it off to Ryan. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't know if it's moved or if it's either.
I don't know. I haven't followed up with him because I could.
So I mean, if it's
when's the last time you spoke with him about it?
Oh gosh, it's been I think November.
Okay. Well,
but I just since some citizens had contributed to that in good faith, and I just thought, well,
I will.
It could be something that spurs the availability. I mean, at best, that spurs the availability of rental housing in town.
Mm-hmm.
So
very good. Okay, I'll follow up with him on both of them.
Chad, we're ready.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah. Okay. Here you go.
He needs music. Sorry.
I know. The guy who helped us receive the $100,000 grant for this building was tickled that he got this to do this, and K.I.S.S Consulting. He was excited about this, and I understood once I saw it. I was like, well, okay, this is really cool. He did a good job putting it together. Did actually an outstanding job putting it together. Just to give everybody a visual. There's the safe, if you notice. So it's even got the safe in there, and the restroom facilities. Quick glance. And what's amazing is what we'll be looking at 20 years from now with tech, because it's unreal. And there's the front of the, what would be the entrance to the bank originally. So again, that's a concept proposal. So wanted you guys just to be able to have everybody have a visual of that, with people seeing work going on, just to see kind of what was behind the scenes. But Tim, did you have anything?
Not really, other than I would like to acknowledge that thanks to the police department with one of our issues that we had brought to us by citizens at the last meeting. They, I guess, followed through with a warrant that and really solved some problems. I think, or moved in the right direction of solving some problems in the neighborhood.
Actually, I had 2 arrests made.
Okay.
The individual at the residence, and then the driver.
Okay.
That was both.
Okay.
Correct. That's what Lance. Yeah, said Lance. Both were arrested.
Very good.
So yeah, so that was in 2 weeks.
I know I don't have great news for Jeannie, but at least, like I say, I think that was great work by them and making that happen.
Yeah, big time. Good call out.
They just say, well, they just did their jobs.
I know, but I know there's so much more that goes into that.
They did their jobs and did it well.
Jason?
Just next Cars and Coffee, July 8th, so bring those cars and trucks up.
Yeah, absolutely. They're right around the corner.
Down.
And Bob?
Last Wednesday night, the Area Planning Commission met. We had a favorable recommendation for property rezoning on just north of farmland. And then dealing with Union City, Emmerich and Sons painting, we had a no recommendation, which was a first for me in almost 4 years of being over there. So, and I will have to recuse myself from the discussion and voting tonight because I work part-time with those guys. So
Yeah.
Chad's gonna take care of any comments that.
Yeah, I've got something I'm gonna add to that when we get down to that point in the
Okay.
new business.
Because that is on the agenda tonight.
Yeah, it's the third item on our new business, so I'm gonna speak a little bit briefly to that. So,
That's all I have. So.
cool. All right. And Jan, I apologize. Or Jan. Cindy, I apologize twice. I skipped in. I go to the wrong name. So, is there anything that you wanted to? Okay. Steve.
I have a lot, so I apologize right now up front. So, we are in the process of applying, or we have submitted the application to the Next Level Trails program. I believe it's roughly a $3.5 million grant for initiating the Next Level Trails through downtown. At the meeting that was held at the school, jointly with the high side, you guys got a glimpse of what Ball State's architecture program and landscape architecture, program put together. This would be the first step in creating that process. Our application is in the hands of DNR approving the route, and this is kind of short notice. We have lots of hoops to jump through as this thing moves forward, but our community realistically has a pretty good chance of receiving this grant if our trail map gets approved by DNR, and we think it will. Chad's going to have some work to do with CSX because we need to gain access and ownership of some properties along the rail, but that will not slow us down on the trail because our primary trail will be primarily down Pearl Street to Mulberry and then out to Oak, and then we'll gather at a trailhead at the cemetery-ish in that general area. It's imperative that this trail be pursued. for our community. This is a key component to connect us to Ridgeville, which connects to Winchester, which theoretically will connect to the Cardinal Greenway, which connects to everything in Indiana pretty much. And the same with Ohio. So the Railroad Park Trail connects, or theoretically can connect to Greenville, Miami County, and then that connects to Dayton and the whole 9 yards. So this is a very big step for our community, and I just need to notify you that we have applied. Don't know a whole lot. There's going to be public hearings, there's going to be input that's going to be needed, and a whole bunch of stuff, but we have made application. Any questions on that? Yes?
Is there a, what is that called, a contribution that we would have to make?
Matching.
There theoretically is. A lot of it can be in kind, and we don't have visibility into exactly what that is because we don't know what we're going to be earmarked for. When we walked the trail, the consulting firm, HWC Engineering, was kind of earmarking about $3.5 million. So we don't know how that'll evolve, and we don't know exactly what the match will be. Probably 20% with some in-kind match as well, but we don't have complete visibility into that. Could be less, I guess is what I'm saying. That all the questions on the next level trail? They are also in that process. They're rebuilding our 5-year park plan. So they will update all that because that is a component of this. So they'll recreate that document that expires this November. So we have to do that regardless.
Just on the rail bed plan, as far as it's more the secondary plan, or
The alternate route.
The alternate route. Is there is that a plan to bridge over the pass through that Frank Miller possibly, or is that feasible?
I would hope to have a very good conversation with Frank Miller's leadership about that probability. That's the way I would like to do it. Obviously, that's going to be a significant structure because they run loaders and high stacks of lumber and all kinds of stuff under there. But I think it can absolutely be done.
I think it'd be great to be able to take that route.
Yeah, that
and
route,
and still
the
allow
painted
them to-
overpass that we've already got connection to, and then we already own the old rail bed south of the cemetery, so that's already city property.
I think that'd be just fantastic to be able to take that route. So
Yeah, and then
how much?
in passing conversations with Steve in the last couple of years, he would be 100% in favor of that. It's just a matter of creating the plan.
Yeah.
But the first thing that has to happen is the city has to maintain or obtain ownership of the rail bed.
Yeah.
Which we do not. I thought we did, but we do not.
From
The bridge.
From the depot
from the depot
to
Depot to the bridge.
the Raytheon property or the old Shellerville
Yeah.
property at the overpass.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that? October 24th. So we did just get that notification. And then you have a document in front of you. This is from George Castor's courthouse. We have been approached by one of our downtown business owners, or building owners, I should say, about the possibility of a tax abatement while they're doing some renovations. I personally was under the impression that the city doesn't have that authority, but we actually do have that authority. It was recommended that we create, and just so I don't butcher this, an economic revitalization area before we issue any abatements, and we tie the abatements to the scope of work being performed. So what that is just theoretically what it is another tool in our toolbox to make impact on the downtown structures and working towards saving the facades and the roofs and preventing us from having more missing teeth in our downtown corridor. So, you know, the facade grant, I think everybody would agree has been successful with the improvements that's been made. I think this is another avenue that we can travel that even though we're giving up a little bit for a short period of time, in theory, we're getting a better structure at the end of the process. I want you guys to review it, and we'll talk about it in July and see what you think. But I do think there's value in that process overall. I think it'll be a little painful, and I don't think we can grant it to everybody, and I think we have to be selective on what the project is and what the scope of it is. But I think there is value there. And then I still have a few more things to address with Union City, Ohio, and the DORA, but hopefully I have that in ordinance form for your approval at the first meeting in July.
Because that does take effect July 1st, right? Is that
The
correct?
law takes effect July 1st.
In Indiana.
Right, we can form it anytime we're ready. I don't really want to rush it. I want to make sure we've talked to everybody. I have had, you know, we had in our mind where the DORA was going to be located. I have had some additional requests, which I think are legitimate. So, you know, we'll expand it a little bit to account for a couple of additional properties. The biggest thing that I want to work out is, can it be joined with Union City, Ohio? They already have the DORA law, and for things like Heritage Days, for things like the car show over there in front of the fire department, things like that, does that make sense to join it together? So those are the things I want to get worked out before we put anything in ordinance form.
Question, please. Guys, I have kids, and Dora to me is a cartoon character.
Swiper,
What's Dora, please?
DORA is a designated outdoor refreshment area.
Aha, okay. Designated outdoor refreshment area, okay.
Correct.
Anything else? That's a good question. Is that it?
That's all I got.
There, Roy. Old business. Ordinance 2023-09, which is the ordinance amending Chapter 94 of the codified ordinances of Union City, which is the noise ordinance. This is on the second reading. Passed on the first. Obviously, no change has been made to it since the first reading. If we have no comments or questions that have arisen since then, I would entertain a motion.
I move we accept ordinance 2023-09, ordinance amending chapter 94 of the codified ordinance of Union City, noise ordinance on the second reading by title only.
We have first, do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Jason. Cindy, if you would, roll call vote.
Brendan Elmore, Bob Leahy,
Yes.
Jason Brewer,
Yes.
Tim Heiss,
Yes.
Tito Farias,
Yes.
And moving on to new business, we have the facade grant application for K.I.S.S by Escobar. Steve, did you want to address this, or?
Yes. So, just received this last week. They are wanting to make minor point repairs on the masonry work on the front of their building and change the color. I think they're planning on using local labor, and I don't think they have a formal written quote, but they're estimating the cost of about $5,000. The family did all the work on Lou's Tacos in their adjoining building there, and they did a wonderful job. So I would estimate it'd be the same quality work on K.I.S.S by Escobar. And they're obviously changing the paint color. That's their wish, to change the paint color. I think they're estimating $5,000, so it'd be a $2,500 match if the council so chose.
What's the paint color recommended? What do you know what they're going with?
I did not ask that question. I can, but
I know I say they, who are they? Yeah, I know different grant agencies we work with, they strongly encourage the historic color palette to be used as much as possible. to try to blend as best as possible with the nature of the building, but
I can get paint samples or color samples before any work's done if you guys want to see them.
that's just me. And this council's decision, so I'm just speaking out loud. I apologize.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, that's congruent with the ordinance too, so.
Sure.
And let's say we're not really technically awarding the grant, we're approving the moving forward with
You're
it,
just
so-
approving moving it
Yeah.
forward at this point.
So we don't have to necessarily have the estimates as they
I'm
are.
just informing you, if we
Yeah.
can get a consensus vote to move it forward, I'll let Jeanette know tomorrow. And I'll get information on what color she's thinking.
Do we just need a roll call, or?
Well, if consensus, I mean, if we've got a consensus, is just consent. I mean, if you guys are all in agreement,
Yeah.
if you're all shaking your heads
I'm
to
good.
move forward,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. So yeah, so consensus reached.
Okay? Got it?
And then ordinance 2023-10, which is the ordinance to amend the existing ordinance 2023-05, and this is in the first reading. And if memory serves me correct, this is what Jan was noting, that there was a change in the verbiage. It was
It was a typo where it says 333 cubic feet.
yes,
It was 300 cubic feet. That's the only change.
there you go. Yeah, so it's just 333 to 300,
No, opposite.
or 300. Yes, thank you.
Just a little-
So that is the only change on this ordinance. But we were advised by the attorney that we do need to have a new one done, even though it's seemingly an innocent mistake, to make it right, because, to make it right.
So we're amending to 333,
Yes,
correct? Okay.
correct. It was 300, but it needs to be 333. And that's the only thing on this ordinance. So if there's no questions, I would entertain a motion for approval.
And what does that change mean, that there is more water per dollar that citizens get? Was that, am I reading that
That's
right?
how our
No.
water bill's generated.
It's just-
the quantity that our basic bill is set up on, and it's just a typo.
Meaning it's 539 for the first 333 cubic feet used, as opposed to the first 300 cubic feet used.
So you are getting 33 more cubic feet
Correct.
for your money.
That sounds like a good deal.
I will move that we adopt ordinance 2023-10 to amend the existing ordinance 2023-05.
We have a first. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Cindy, if you would, roll call vote.
Brandon Elmore, Bob Leahy,
Yes.
Jason Brewer.
Yes.
Tim Heiss.
Yes.
Peter Frias.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we can't suspend the rules. We're not.
That's, yeah, we don't have Brandon.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
And then lastly, ordinance 2023-11, which is the ordinance to rezone, is for Emmerich. This is on the first reading, and a couple things I just wanted to add on this. We got details, a little bit of details conveyed to me. That meeting that was held by area planning, they actually had 3 members missing, so that was one thing that hurt, because I think it's 7 out of 13 that they need, so. And it was a 6-1 vote. Well, the one vote no was under, again, the way it was conveyed to me was under the concern for the housing development. Well, if it helps assuage anybody or helps ease anybody's minds, the builder himself has no problems with what's being proposed for Emmerich's, and he's in complete agreement for Ward construction. So there's really no reason for opposition, to move this forward, at least from my vantage point. Obviously, a great company, great family, and hard working, but even more than that, though, I mean, we got to think long term, and there's nothing really that, in my mind, should impede this from going forward.
You answered my question.
Okay. Any other questions or thoughts? So again, it was a 6-1 vote in favor of. But again, they were short. So if there are no further questions or thoughts, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move we accept ordinance 2023-11, ordinance to rezone the existing ordinance code to rezone for Emmerich painting to C3 by title only
On the first reading.
on first reading.
We have a first, we have a second.
No second.
Cindy, if you would, one more time. Roll call. Jason, yes, very good.
Brandon Elmore, Bob Leahy,
Abstain.
Jason Brewer,
Yes.
Tim Heiss,
Yes.
Peter Frias.
Yes.
All right.
And I have one more thing,
Yes.
real quick, on this topic. This is, and I'm going to say this, I'm stepping out on a real small little branch. Sign ordinance, that's a problem for this community, trying to grow and develop business and industry in our community. Stuff like this is also a problem. These people are local, we know who they are, we know what they are, we know what kind of work they do, and this never should have been a problem passing our area planning board. This never should have been a problem. And it's another reason why a lot of communities are taking back their area planning and managing it locally. That's all I want
Well,
to say.
and to expand on that a little bit is that first, Bob had to abstain. And so he would have been the seventh vote if he were able to vote, but he obviously legitimately couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And what the real problem was absenteeism with area planning meetings, because you notice that there were 8 members there, one couldn't vote, and two couldn't vote. No, so there were probably 9 there. So you had 2 that couldn't vote for legitimate conflict, and then only 1 no vote actually. So 1 no vote killed it. As far as a recommendation, and they just go to a no recommendation.
And so was that like just a lack of information? Because that was my concern too. I'm like, hello, we're building a new neighborhood because that's part of our vision. We want to have more housing. We want to have more investment. And so, wait a minute, right next door, we're going to have a commercial thing. So, I think that's a reasonable question to be asked. I think we resolved it tonight, and I think it'll eventually go through the board.
Is that your phone?
That's my phone.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. All right. Visitors wishing to address the board, please stand, state your name, address, and nature of business, and each person will have 3 minutes. Go for it.
Well, Jim and I are here representing Randolph County Tourism.
Actually, I should have slid you under presenters, so you actually should have went after me.
So we all sitting here know that Randolph County and Darke County are the center of our universe. But honestly, on April 8th of 2024, we really are going to be the center of the universe. Randolph County, Indiana is going to have the longest total eclipse of the sun, almost 4 minutes.
Oh my God.
In the nation, other than the only other place is just north of the Texas-Mexico line.
Oh my goodness.
Eagle Pass, Texas, just a little bit north of there. It's almost 5 minutes. But it's a long time all around Randolph County, and we are super excited about it. I talked to a county in Nebraska that was rural. Said we need to talk to rural people and see how they prepare for this. She said it sounded similar to our community. They are a mile from Lincoln, Nebraska, very rural, 1 small hotel. They had 20,000 people come to their county to see the eclipse. There are people who are really into this. So we're meeting. We've got some subcommittees going. We met with EDP officials who said, give us your wish list because we really don't have a budget. Tourism is funding. We've got a web designer, and we're sending him small tawdry checks just to keep him going. And but anyway, we're really excited. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. I've read different things. It's been 400 years since there was a total eclipse in Indiana, and I read 800. I've read so much stuff, I'm getting it all mixed up. But it's been a long time, and I won't be around for the next one, so we're going to try to do this up big. But we wanted to show you what our theme is. I don't know if you've heard it or not, but this is our theme. We had 6 or 7 choices, and everybody really liked this one. So anyway, you can get a T-shirt from Anita Amsball for a mere $20 to help pay for some of our stuff. But Anita is the one in charge of all those. But we've got a lot of things going. The schools, I've reached out to all the schools. They are, everybody but Union City is not having any school. Union City's going until noon that day. But they have opened up their facilities as far as the grassy areas where people can watch. And it's the Nebraska lady told me they got shuttles. They had public parking. So we need to be thinking about all this stuff. They had public parking for people who came in for the day, and then they had shuttles running to help keep down traffic. Yeah.
Wow. What about like hotel, motel stays, stuff like that? I mean,
well, Cheryl Prescott already has some reservations.
Oh, good grief!
Yeah,
and it's not till April next year.
Right.
Okay.
The people who are into this are really into it.
Yeah.
Like she's got a photographer coming who's from Michigan.
Oh my goodness.
They look it up. Where is it going to be the longest? Where's the closest place that it'll be the longest? And they come.
So they're coming whether you're ready or not.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
It's like we need to prepare.
Yeah.
And do we prepare like crazy and 2 people show up? But I think we need to prepare for a nice big crowd, and it'll be a huge boon to the businesses. And it's really exciting, but it's also, it can kind of overwhelm me too. But anyway, just wanted to make all of you aware of it. Be thinking about, obviously the First Financial parking lot could be public parking. I told EDP we were going to need signage. Harder Park would be a great viewing area. We've got some camping sites there. I asked the Nebraska lady, what did you do for lodging? And she said they had a lot of camping, and they had a lot of local people put their homes on VRBO and Airbnb and rent them out in the homeowners. Yeah. So, I lay awake at night. But it's really exciting, and it's going to be here in April. So it depends on where you are in the county, but the entire county, it's a little bit different, the totality time, but the entire county is almost 4 minutes. Wow. So there's not a bad spot in the county. That's a long time, really. Wow. It really is, it really is. We have a website. Jim, you want to give them your...
Already did.
Oh, you already did.
You guys
the
have
website is on the little handout that Jim
Thank
gave you. I'm going to give you a form to fill out for Harder Park to get them on the website. Okay. There are, I don't know if it's on there yet. There's going to be a form on the website to fill out if you're a business and if you're a bakery and you're making moon cookies or Wix pies. We got a Milky Way pie at the last meeting from Wix. Cool. They're going to have Milky Way pies. And so anyway, this is the form that's on the website, but we had some hard copies made in case not everybody's real.
Do you want us to fill one of these out for Artisan Crossing also?
Yeah, take one. Sure.
So a lot of these things that we're excited about, people can do their own T-shirts, they could do whatever. We're just trying to go to every town in Randolph County and try to put it on their books so they can be, we didn't know. See, that's what her and I were trying to do. We're trying to give the information out there to everybody so they could take it and just be prepared. Because one of the things that she was telling you is to be aware, because once 3:10 happens, and then by 3:05, 3:07, people are going to disperse, and it's going to be all this traffic jam. We're assuming that all this is going to happen, and then by 3:07, 3:10, 3:10, 3:11, 3:13. The restaurants are going to be getting full. So we're imagining all this chaos between 3 o'clock and 3:30, that people are going to be hungry, and then it's also one of the things that I'm trying to do is go to all the factories, because it's between shifts. It's between shifts. Nobody said anything. I thought to myself, and I said, well, everybody's going to be in between shifts. So what is the factories going to do? Is the people going to be sneaking out of the windows, not doing their jobs? So why not just get everybody online? And so one of my jobs is giving one of these out, and her and I go to the restaurants are going to be, in between shifts, and people coming in. So it's a good problem, not a bad problem, but we just want to be aware for everybody to be aware on this. And of course, one of the biggest thing is it's my birthday.
He thinks he's so special.
And it started out to be a joke. Her and I sit together on the tourism, and we were just kind of kidding. Said, wouldn't it be nice if we just get a committee together? And then boom, this happened. I said, yeah, and then we'll have a birthday afterwards. At 4 o'clock, we'll be celebrating my birthday. It's half over, but anyway, getting back. But this is exciting. It's our opportunity, because a lot of people are coming from a lot of states, as she indicated. That's what happened to the other. Yeah, we're hoping. Like I said, it could be just two people, one from Ohio and one from Illinois, come over to see this. But it's going to happen. We're talking about April, so it could be snowing. It could be raining.
It could be 80.
Yeah, and it could be 80. Yeah, I've had a birthday that's been pretty hot. But whatever the weather, it's happening up above. The scientists already told us.
It's still going to get dark.
It's still the eclipse is still going to happen up above, no matter what the weather is down here. So we're just trying to get. And then as we closed the meeting last week, our sheriff come up with a good slogan too. Is that
we're going to get t-shirts made on the way out of town that you can buy that say, I got mooned in Randolph County.
Always trying to make
but
a
I'm not
dollar.
worried about that.
So anyway, that's what we're here for. That's what we're here for.
And the tourism committee and tourism group is basically, we just want to bring the county together and be the vehicle to disseminate what's going on and what's going to happen in different places. So
because it's going to happen.
Get your wheels turning and be thinking about what Union City's going to do.
And thanks for keeping me in the loop too. I know you've sent a couple emails regarding meetings, and I appreciate that. And if there's anything that guys think of too that we should consider, or thoughts or ideas, we need to get them to you. Go ahead, Tito. You have something?
Yeah, I don't know the science and everything, but I know that it involves the sun going behind the moon. People are going to be looking at
the moon goes in front of the sun.
The moon goes in front of the sun. Sorry.
Yeah.
So got it. So are people going to be looking up into the sun? So there's a safety thing.
That's safety is going to be a really big deal.
So we need
there
to raise awareness on that.
that you can buy, but they have to be a certain ISO number.
Yeah.
So you don't want to just get
just buy anything. People are going to try to get welding helmets and this and that, and just for 4 minutes is not worth the $90. Not unless you're going to weld the rest of your life, It's not, And going around Winchester or Union City with a welding helmet on, you'd be strange, But it's just one of those things. But yeah, there is a certain a safety glasses that you have, and they're only like $2. You can get online, on Amazon. They're selling them now.
Website,
and you can get them if you buy them a bunch. Like our Saratoga Lions Club, we're buying them. They're for Saratoga to sell out or give. I don't know how. I don't want to mislead anybody, but we're buying some for the community and stuff like that. If organizations here in Union City, maybe the firemen, with all the money that they're saving, they want to give out some, in the police department, there'll be another way to give out. But what I wanted to do, as she was talking to all the schools, I thought of making it an assignment for the kiddos, but here again, back to his question, do it right do it right, because you know back then, and I forgot the last one we were doing. People were taking shoe boxes, putting a hole in the middle of it, and you can see it. Well,
The
then
Art Association is
yeah.
applying for a grant to make those with the kids.
And doing a study, you know,
There's just
because
a lot.
the kids are going to be out, so why not do it right, you know? But a lot of it, and Tino, you probably know this, you know, they were making that hole and go, I can't see it. Then they go like this. I'm blind, you know, so I don't know. So yeah, it needs to be educated.
Safety is very important.
Yes,
It needs to be
because this is a full effect. This is not a partial. This is a full effect.
The other thing is that, you know, we have a very diverse community in Union City, and some of the cultures I know have different beliefs or things related to these kinds of eclipses.
That's a really good point.
So just, I don't know,
I
get
know
the word out that way too.
Pam Frazier's the new Art Association director, and she's written a grant to, and that would be a really good way to, that's a really good idea. I will mention that to her.
So thank you for listening to us, and at
Thank
least
you.
we're on record that we came and
Yeah, good job. Great job.
Your turn.
So here in Union City, if you have any questions, you know her number.
You got his number on your card.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
My name's Jeannie Collins. I live at 336 South Columbia Street. I still am living next to Shameless. We can all laugh, but it's not funny.
Yeah, they did get their water. They did get water hookup, correct? Okay. So I mean, it's baby steps, but what I understand, there's still debris everywhere, correct?
Oh, everywhere. And also that there was a huge fight with the poor little lady across that lived in Lambden's house. And I know you don't know that, but right across the street from him, she doesn't speak a word of English. He's screaming obscenities, and screaming. Another Mexican lady lives down there, also was involved in that. The police got called. Only one of the daughters, and they didn't realize she spoke English, so she understood what he was saying. Now and I asked them to come. They're afraid. I just don't think that's a way to live.
Because of retribution by.
Yes. Okay, I may be stupid, but I'm still here and I'm back. But no matter how bad this is making my life and other neighbors, what about these 9 kids? When Child's Protective Services are saying all they need is a mattress, there's 9 of them in there. I see the conditions that they're living in. I wouldn't raise my children that way, and I bet not one of you would raise your children that way. And for us to be known, that it took us 3 years before to fix this, and they just moved across town. What's my timeline? What's those kids' timeline before they realize that maybe that isn't the way life has to be?
Yeah, I could not agree more with you. And we, unfortunately, as a body, we have no ability to go in there and remove the kids. We don't.
I know that.
Okay.
I know that.
But
if I don't say it.
I know. I agree. And I have a meeting tomorrow morning at the courthouse for what it's worth. And this is on the.
And I have gone to the health department. I talked to them on Saturday.
What did they say?
Mr. Sawinski said he was going to look into it, that he thought it was deplorable and that somebody was not doing their job correctly. You spoke earlier, this is another subject, I could go on, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, just one incident after another. But you were talking about the inspections of the houses. how does that happen? I need to know how that happens. If I am a landlord, I call you and tell you to come and inspect my property. I, as a landlord, don't want you to come, so I just move somebody in. Is that how it happens? We run electric cords up the side of the house because we're not going to pay to have electricity turned on upstairs?
The tenant can request an inspection.
How about if the tenant might not be mentally,
Okay.
I'm looking for a good word.
I know what you're trying to get at.
Okay, somebody help me with the word.
Capacitated or
Yes,
able.
that right now they have a house and that's all they care about. And they don't care that there's a light cord running and that their house is 3 feet away from mine. And if their house goes up, I'm dead too. I'm so sorry I have to come,
No.
but I'm gonna keep coming until I see something happen. Thank you for your
Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to continue to keep fighting. I mean, it's. I hope. Certainly, you don't think we've done nothing.
I did not.
Okay.
I've done
And at the same time, I empathize with the fact that it never happens fast enough.
Well, when he starts picking on the minorities that he knows can't understand him just because we think we're bigger than and we want to be the bully. He screamed in front of my house, told me, I'll kill you before I move out of this neighborhood. Do I have proof of that? No.
Assault.
Am I going to back down? No. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like I said. I mean, tomorrow morning, this is going to be a daily thing between the police and Jamie and myself, and it's not easy. I mean, it's sad because the incident on Chatham, we were able to make 2 arrests, thank goodness. Because the situation presented itself where it worked out that way, what we were able to do. It's what we'd like to be able to do down there, but that's not, we're not at that juncture yet.
May I say one more thing?
Yes.
With the 4th of July coming, I'm sure we can't afford to do a lot of things at that house. But I bet they have fireworks. What are the hours? What are the limitations they have?
Nothing past midnight.
Because maybe now they'll have a water bill. They won't see your little notices.
Yeah, true. Nothing past midnight. It's 2 hours, starting at 10, I think it is, on July 4th. And then, and it runs through July 8th, is it? I believe July 9th, July 9th. So it starts June 29th and runs through July 9th is the window. And it's 2 hours after dark. Yeah, so that's it. So, as much as you can, continue to encourage any and all neighbors around that are dealing with any to call. Well, have someone call for them even. If you know of someone.
I'm here. They sent me.
Thank you for representing.
I had a conversation with one of the neighbors.
Okay. Okay, good.
That confirmed, I mean, what she said is exactly
The way it's playing out.
What I was told.
Yeah,
In terms of that altercation. And her altercation.
Can I say one thing? We, the council, appreciate you coming. That's very important. But if you're not calling 911 every single time something happens down there, nothing is going to change. The only immediate action that can be taken is through 911 and law enforcement. You can come here tonight and tell the council what you told them, and their hands are tied. All they can do is go back to the police department and keep telling them to do everything that they're already doing. But people have to call 911, and our community has to start standing up
They're afraid.
to people that are doing this to their properties and to their neighborhoods. They just have to.
You and I have enough backbone to stand up for ourselves.
No,
I have
I
enough
get it.
backbone to stand up for help some of those people.
I get
but
it,
they're
but
afraid.
911 is the avenue for those people to get help, and we have to know every single time something happens. We just have
I
to.
can tell them, but you have to remember that they're afraid.
Nope, we get it, but it's still, we have to encourage that.
But they're not identified by the officer when he goes down there. If somebody's calling from a,
Could be
huh?
I just lost the term. It could be
It's anonymous.
anonymous. There we go. Anonymous call. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have to give your name
The
and
police department has an anonymous tip line. They also have an online reporting system that you can also call 911 and tell the dispatcher that you want to remain anonymous. They'll ask for information, but the police officer and the sheriff's department will not reveal the point of contact.
Would they have greater comfort if they knew that they could take that
I
route?
can tell them that.
Okay.
I'm here as their voice. But I do know that, like, some of them that don't speak English, it's very hard for us to communicate to them, except for the lady holding my hand and crying. I
Is
understood.
the 911, excuse me, is the 911 dispatcher able to take a call in
Bilingual.
Spanish? Or?
Yeah. Do we have a bilingual dispatcher?
Not that I'm aware of, no. We have a bilingual police officer. We're looking at hiring a second employee for emergency services. If that is a situation, you know, we can accommodate, but it takes us a little bit of time if there is a language gap. I mean, Jesus is always available during the day since he works for the school. So, you know, there are avenues for us to travel, but we may have to be a few minutes delayed just because we got to secure that. But our bilingual officer works during the days now. He's off night shift, so that should help facilitate quite a bit.
Okay. Thank you. The next council meeting is Monday, July 10th. And that's at 6 p.m. The date of the next Public Works meeting is also July 10th, and that's at 1 p.m. I would hereby entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have a first, we have a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.